tonight, eh?
Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
Second time's the charm?
Yeah, second time's the charm. Are you ready, Kaylee?
Let's do this.
Are you sure?
Maybe.
Can you tell there's a different inflection in my voice?
Indeed, I can.
Yeah.
I think you hit the button.
I did. About 18 seconds ago, I hit the button. We're off.
Dear.
We're off on another exciting adventure. The AML gang is off on another exciting adventure.
Yeah,
exactly. We need exciting adventure music. Down here in Busted Knuckle, Kentucky. Okay.
Go with the theme for the Magnificent Seven.
Ooh, yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
So why am I losing all of your webcams?
Because
you don't really want to see our faces.
Yeah, because we turned them all off. So our guest has now already wandered in from the green room and wandered into the studio.
We got to get a better lock on this.
Yeah, I don't know. Somehow
they're one of those big cranky ones that used to have like on the submarines for the watertight doors.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
And he's still talking.
Or the door that opens on Star Trek. You know, that whoosh.
Yeah.
When the doors open.
Oh, Neil's a force field to keep you in the green room.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we need the security system like they have in Control.
Yes.
Yes. There we go.
You know what we need the cone of silence.
Absolutely.
What? He said.
What's that, Chief?
What? I can't hear you.
He's in Atlantis?
Speak up.
He's in Atlantis? No, I said he can't see us. Max Larrabee. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for tonight.
All right.
Tune in again when we discuss another show from the past.
It was only yesterday I was texting with Tony Cook, and we were talking about, what show were we talking about? Don't tell me. Let me guess. We were talking about the Rockford Files.
Oh, there's another good show.
Yeah.
And then we got talking, and then he got off on another tangent, and then I came up with my standard question, which will plague me now to the end of time. How could it possibly be that the Coast Guard didn't realize that there was a gale force storm only an hour and a half out of port?
Well, that was back in the day before satellite and everything, so.
Yeah. But they must have had weather tracking somehow. I mean, it was a 3-hour cruise, which means they only got an hour and a half out of port before they hit this gale force storm, and nobody in the Coast Guard knew what was coming.
Well, the homing pigeons never returned home, so.
Well, that doesn't make good television.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't care about they packed way too much luggage. I want to know what the Coast Guard was doing.
apparently not very much.
They were on break.
Yeah. There's so many questions with Gilligan's Island. I'm convinced it's some sort of a conspiracy. Okay. All these voices you hear are we have Bruce the mailboy, the moderately agitated mailboy. Say hi, yes. Bruce.
Hi. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Bruce. And you don't have your regular microphone.
No, my regular microphone was lost in a bit of an incident a month or so ago. So
your house burnt down.
Part of my house burned down.
Part of your house burnt down.
The house is still standing. Part of it is not so much.
Is it? Are you living in it?
No. We're in the rental for about a year.
Yeah. You won't be there for a year. And what happened to your priceless, unreplaceable AML microphone?
It was on my computer table downstairs, not at the scene of the action. We get covered with a oozy, misty, whatever from smoke that was in the house and whatever other stuff. So they just said, "Yeah, you don't want to keep that. Just throw it away." I said, "Okay."
So, and I got you another one.
Yes,
and it's sitting on the counter in the lunchroom.
Perfect.
There you go. And then we have our Chris Brimley, who is joining us all. He's jetted in. He on Southwest Airlines. And Tracy Boyd is the official flight attendant of the AML network. I think if I ever fly Southwest Airlines, somebody needs to pin my name and my address to my shirt for when I get lost.
If found, please return to.
Yeah. I've lived such a protected life flying out of Toronto.
You need an adult. You need an adult.
Yeah.
You're going to have that unaccompanied minor button on your shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be wandering around the airport going, I don't understand. Why do I got to get in line? So anyways, we have Chris Brimley, who is came all the way from Provo, Utah. He's the vice president of Exact Rail, and we will find out shortly why he has joined us tonight. And then we have Kaylee Zhang, who has organized this entire podcast on her own without any help. She didn't need her name and address pinned to her shirt. She was able to do this completely on her own. She has organized this because the guest that we have tonight that's already wandered into the studio, and I feel like he's somewhat of an unruly. Now that I've gotten to know John, I feel like he's like, if I should have hung out with him in school and gotten a lot of trouble. We have John Sacerdote, who is the president of the Amherst show for trains in the Eastern Exposition, Springfield. What is the actual name of it, John?
It is. It was close. It's the Amherst Railway Society's Railroad Hobby Show.
And did you decide that because you wanted the biggest name you could get, right?
Yeah. Well, really, we just shortened it to Railroad Hobby Show. So.
And it's very commonly known as Springfield.
Yes.
Because
or the big the big Railroad Hobby Show. But yeah, everybody knows it as Springfield, even though it's across the river in West Springfield. But it's all the same place. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And I never really understood that how these towns will get East Springfield and no, we're in West Springfield.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're going to the Burger King in Springfield. Try to relax. Yeah. So, and some people even call it the Big E.
Yeah, they do because it's on the grounds of the Eastern States Exposition's annual agricultural fair known as the Big E. But the folks at the Big E are always watching that because they have that phrase copywritten, and you cannot include it in anything. So we used to be known as the Big E show, and they actually asked us to remove that, which we had no problem doing it because we wanted it more geared toward Amherst anyway. So,
wow,
yeah,
you'd think there'd be other Big E things around.
I know it, but it is actually nationally copywritten. It's I think they're depending on attendance, they're between the 5th and the 7th largest agricultural fair in the country.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. It goes on for 17 days. So it's very large. And they have great groups singing and, on the weekends and such. They actually this is a commercial for the Big E. They actually broke their own record, and they had 1.6 million people over the 17 days this year.
Oh, that's a lot of corn dogs.
Yeah, you know what? The food there is, I don't know how to pronounce it or put an adjective in front of it. It's exotic, but it's like agriculturally exotic. So it's really strange
abstract
food. Yeah, that's a good one too, Haley. I like that. So it's crazy. But I mention all of that because we are the largest show on their fairgrounds other than their own show.
Really? So this
wow.
And how big is the fairgrounds?
Though the fairgrounds are probably 35 acres. We take all their indoor buildings that are winterized. So we're actually approaching, because I keep creeping it upwards every year with these layouts that want to grow. Hey, can we add another couple modules? So we're very close to 500,000 square feet. So we're at 470-something thousand square feet. And if you do the math on acreage, it's about 11.5 acres of trains.
It's now up to 11.5 acres because it was 9.2, I think, the last time.
Oh, my goodness. Good for you. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So has it grown, was it last year it was 9.2 or was it a couple of years ago?
A couple of years ago. It was almost 10 last year. And I was just looking at numbers just to have something to talk about other than me. And
But really, do we need anything else other than to talk about you?
And then I actually said, well, why would I be doing that? Let's just talk about me. No, but seriously, 3 or 4 years ago, we had 453 vendors, and this year we have 400. So think about that. We get fewer vendors, but we keep growing, and it's like actually, if you think about it, I know why. But all these smaller vendors that are trying to sell their collections, well, they're gone. They've sold them. So all the onesie and twosie guys are disappearing, and we're getting, but we're getting larger groups. In other words, people that take more than one table. But we have, I think, about 17 new vendors this year out of the 400. So a good percentage every year are brand new. So it's cool.
Yeah, and you're saying, but the vendors are having, a lot of them are having a tendency to grow, anyways.
Yes, they're growing, and you know how this hobby is. It's an older hobby, frankly, and so a lot of our guys will retire. We've had a half a dozen people retire, go out of business this year, and they're just not so much. There's nothing left to sell, but they're getting too old, because this is a grueling 4-day event by the time you're setting up and tearing down.
Yeah, but you make it pretty user friendly, though.
I try to. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We make it as easy as possible. We used to never have forklift, moving. I can't think of the right name, but we never used to have loading dock capability, is what I was trying to say. And now we do, so we try to treat vendors first class all the way. So just bring in your truck. We'll unload it for you. We'll actually bring it right over to your spot, sit back, relax. And then once it's over there, then you can go to it. So it's cool.
So are people allowed to drive their own vehicle, or is this a union thing, or is this just?
No, it's non-union. So you could drive right up to your tables to a point. It gets a little hairy from about noon on Friday, which is the final setup, because most people are there. So it's hard to keep moving tables around. But we let the layouts come in, the large layouts come in even Wednesday night. All the rest of the layouts come in Thursday. So we get all of those set up. And then we let most anybody else come in until it gets restrictive and dangerous, with people walking around and stuff. So we shut that down around about 1:00 on Friday. So as far as vehicles in the building,
right? So basically, if I want to do a couple of laps around the Better Living Center, I need to do it before noon on Friday.
Yes, absolutely. If you're going to race anyone, especially, absolutely.
So what kind of crowd do you expect this year?
We'll get our usual 20,000 plus. So we our heavy day is Saturday, because people want to go to get those deals and those hard to find items, and it calms down to about 10 or 11,000 on Sunday. So we'll get 13, 14,000 on 12,000 maybe on Saturday, and we'll get 10 or 11 on Sunday.
All right. Well, so this is why we have. So now I'm going to tell you, this is why we have invited Chris Brimley along, because he's you're a vendor.
Yes.
He is, and we keep him in a spot that's really right in a critical area, right next to door 8, where there's a couple of ATM machines, and and we make it as easy as we can for Chris and the guys.
Yeah, I've been going to it now. This will be my 10th year next in 2020, and I think we've always been in that same spot, and I love it.
Yeah, people. What's funny about it, guys, is as the show director, people will say, "John, I need more space, but I can't move," because everybody knows where I am. So you get a rectangle of 10 tables, right? And let's say there's 5 people there, each with 2 tables. They all want more tables, but they don't want to move. What do you want me to do? Someone's got to move, so it's pretty funny.
So, Chris, do you think it's critical that you've been in the same spot the last 10 years?
So, this show's unique because of that. I haven't been to another show that you keep the same location, and I really like that, because people people that are regulars to the show know exactly where to go. They know what door they need to go to. And I mean, people move around every now and again, but most companies are kind of have their name engraved on the floor, and I really like that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's real funny. I think I'm not going to change it because the vendors mean a lot to me, even though the gate is what we use to fund our grant program. All our proceeds go towards funding other nonprofits that have something to do with railroads. So I'd rather make vendors and exhibitors happy, but at the same time, the people that come to the show say, John, sometimes the show gets stale because everybody's in the same spot. I said, but the vendors like it like that, and you do too. You know right where to go. Yeah. So what we've been trying to do is, and when we hash it out, it makes sense to them. And I said, but I try to make it such that there's 10 to 15% new vendors every year, and not that I'm booting people out. I just don't have to. People are just, as I said earlier, retiring, et cetera. So it makes it cool. And the wait list, I've had people on the wait list, guys, for 7 or 8 years.
Really?
And yeah. Wow. Yeah, there's 300 people, 293, honestly, on the wait list right now. 293 different organizations, companies, et cetera. And I just sent out, we're absolutely full. And I mean, there's not a single table left. Not out of 1,700 tables. And I said, well, geez, I got to get some of the new guys in. So we rearranged some space and came up with 50 more tables. And I sent out to the wait list folks in order of what I think is really cool and new and interesting, because that means the most to me. No offense to anybody, but I really don't care how long you've been on the wait list as a priority. I do take that into consideration if there's other factors that kind of even it out. But I care about what's new, innovative, what will be a very neat thing to have at the show to interest people. So that means a lot to me. So there's a lot of new and innovative things there.
How do you decide on what layouts are going to be at the show?
That's a good question. I actually tell them I want to see pictures, because if it's not a great looking layout, and it's just haphazard compared to some of the other layouts that are there, then no, sorry, you're not coming. And I had a guy send me some pictures, and they were really great pictures. I said, oh, this looks great. So he was in the show a couple of years ago, and I saw the layout. I go, where exactly did you put that camera for these pictures? It just looked like it just didn't meet my expectations. So I just said, I said, you need to do some work on this or you're not coming back next year. No offense. I said, walk around and go see some of the other layouts that won best in show in the past couple of years. So I want it to be, high quality. Doesn't have to be done. I even like it when stuff is not done, because it gets people thinking, hey, how'd you do this? Oh, I see it's foam underneath there. So, that kind of stuff. And so I like it when some of the layouts are not finished. And we even award you, we have 3 awards: best layout, best module, and the least amount of scenery. So we tease the folks, and they get a blue ribbon for no scenery, which is kind of like us really saying, you better not win this next year. So it's kind of fun, but it's tongue in cheek, that part of it. So, but when we come around with that award, people go, no, not me. So they'll put some trees down on a piece of plywood. So there's some scenery there. So it's silly, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so really, I don't think we should skip over this. You say your vendors are down to 400. You've added 50 tables, but you can't get all the vendors in that want to come in because you don't have enough room.
That's exactly right. I had 53 exhibitors cancel this year. Illness, retiring, unfortunately death, and some can't make it because they got, their daughters are getting married. That used to be a knockout factor in years past. But if you broke your leg, if you're going for chemo, if this, that, and the other thing, and you say, can I please just take a year off? We absolutely do that. So the folks that are new, I say, look, you have a provisional contract your first year, because some of the folks want back in and you're in their spots. So we make that perfectly clear, and I mark that in the database as a provisional contract, and we look and see who really does make it back the next year. So this is all done on computer, so it's fairly straightforward to do it. And so I'll look at all the people that were there automatically get a contract except for the provisional contracts, and then we go through the ones that were canceled that said they want to be back in next year, and we make sure that that's a real request, and then those that are on provisional, if we have the room, they get to come back. If you're there 2 years in a row, you're in.
Okay, wow. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot more to it than, I mean, when we first started talking, you said, you have 400 vendors, but you've got a huge wait list, like the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, you got a huge wait list, but it's not done by priority. It's done based on what you think is going to be good for the show.
Exactly. I want people to know that there's going to be new, fresh things in the show. Example, that we have 2 vendors this year from the UK. They're making the trip all the way from the UK.
Wow.
One, and this will be his 3rd year, but all of a sudden, another vendor from the UK heard about it and said, "Hey, so and so tells me that if you want to break into the Americas, this is the show to go to." I said, "Sure, come on over." So I've got 2. I've got another one from Australia coming.
Really?
Yeah, I have 14 people signed up from Finland for the clinics the 2 days before the show.
Wow. Holy man.
Yeah, it's becoming quite the international event. So I like that. I'd love to do more along those lines too.
So, Chris, how important of a show is it?
For us, this is a critical show for us to attend. It would be silly for us not to go to it.
Yeah. So, and you guys have been doing it for 10 years, and you feel like, because you do the National Train Show and a couple others, but this is something you can't miss.
Oh yeah, this is. I mean, for us, it's a trek out there because we're out of Utah, and so in the early days, we used to have to ship, these 3 containers for our booth. We've kind of slimmed that down to it's more of a tabletop, but still, I mean, it costs us a lot to go to attend this show, but it's would be stupid not to go to it for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
just too much exposure.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the people that attend this, I mean, people go to the show and spend money, and I mean, people save up all year for this show, and then they bring out their I've seen people pull out these wads of cash that are just gigantic. It's amazing.
Well, let me fill that in, Chris, a little bit. There's a dozen ATM machines on premises. Mm-hmm. They each, and I learned this when we had to ask for them to be filled. They each have trays and they're small ATM machines, so they're single trays. Although the ones right next to you, Chris, are double trays. Each tray has $60,000 in cash in it. So just say the dozen are single trays. So you're talking a dozen times 60,000. They fill them up Thursday night. They fill them up again because they're empty Saturday night.
Wow.
So you're talking $500,000 easily in cash gone, spent at the show.
They don't have any criminal mastermind listening to this show. Otherwise, they'd be casing and jointing for hijacking all the ATM machines.
Well, you know what? Along those lines, they're small ATM machines, but I'll tell you what, the security that's there is...
time out, John. Time out, John. What were you trying to say, Kaylee? What did you first say there? I kind of missed it.
It's a good thing we don't have criminal masterminds listening to this podcast. Otherwise, they'll be just planning on how to hijack all the ATM machines.
And John, I mean, I'd say probably 60% of the transactions we do at the show are actually done by credit card, not by cash. So, I mean, there's quite a bit more money changing hands there.
Oh God, yeah. The the Massachusetts Department of Revenue love us because it's such a huge weekend for them. At 6.25%, they actually have a bunch of people there the first day to make sure everybody has tax numbers that are selling, and everybody does, and they're wonderful about it, because if you're a newbie to the show, they don't shut you down like they might in other states, but what they do is they give you a tax number and say, here's your tax number, it's free, and go to town. So you're temporary agents for the Department of Revenue collecting tax. So you collect the tax, you send it into them, and it's all good. So
Bruce, you can't see me right now, right?
No,
because you have your back to me. You're across the studio.
that's right.
But can you imagine what my face looks like right now? After we're talking, he just said the Massachusetts State Revenue Department loves us. I mean, they have revenuers over. Like what? It sounds like a moonshining thing or something.
It does, doesn't it? I'm picturing like Neil Bonnet starring in some car racing away from the Big E with his track fixtures or something like that, with the revenuers fast in chase.
They actually have 5 revenuers, as you say. But then all they do is they check our list to see who's got tax numbers and who doesn't. And those that don't, they go and say, hey, here's your new tax number. And then they're on their way. They don't even show up on Sunday. But they just want to make sure everybody's doing well.
So are you serious? There's actually revenue people from the tax department there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a funny story. So
hang on. You've been on the show before. you know the rule. You tell the story. We'll decide whether it's funny or not.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, here's the story. So for years, we've prepared a list of all the vendors that are selling and provide the state of Massachusetts with the list and the tax numbers. So it was a nice Excel spreadsheet of exhibitors and their tax numbers for those that are selling. Send it into them. About 3 years ago, they said, we need a list of all your vendors and their tax numbers, and it's $200. And we said, well, we've been doing that forever for free. Nope, it's $200 now. So go figure. So you have to register everybody, and it costs X number of dollars to do it. Something we were doing for years, but such is life with the state.
Obviously, you're making too much work for them. They had to get some money out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Evidently, but we're happy to do it because we very seriously have a really good relationship with them.
Yeah, they weren't just happy with 6 3/4% or whatever it is of $1 million. They wanted more.
I guess so.
So let's back up because you were going pretty fast there. So there's 12 ATM machines. How do you know there's single tray and double tray machines? How do you know that?
Because I had to work with the bank to get them to come and fill it because they don't usually fill it in the dead of winter. And when they saw how much money and how many transactions were there, they said, oh, at $3 a transaction, unless it was your bank, they decided to come and fill it. So that's how I know.
And how many years ago was this that you suddenly realized you had to have the ATM machines filled?
The second year I was show director, so 14 years ago. Because people were complaining like you wouldn't believe. There's no money in the ATM machines. They had to leave the grounds to go get money. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore.
So how long are you? So you're the show director? I called you the show president somewhere. So
actually, you said the president of the show, so that fits.
Okay. So you're the show director.
Yeah, I was the president, so I'm the immediate past president
of the Amherst
of the Amherst Railway Society. But I'm the show director. It's a papal job, so I am the show director until I die, because no one else wants to do it.
Well, he also hasn't named.
Can't imagine why.
He also hasn't named his heir apparent yet either.
That's true.
Kaylee.
And no.
No one, guys, this is especially around now, this is a full-time job. I work on this 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And from around, honestly, from around August on, after the show, I take February and part of March off. And then the end of March, I go to the 30 hotels and have them sign new contracts again for the following year. And I fight for good rates. And I've been averaging about 60% of their usual rate. And they're used to me now. So
yeah, you get very good rates. My gang or the AML Nation, the official hotel, the AML Nation is the Hampton Inn in Enfield, which is 7 miles from the show.
Yeah, that's a great spot. Yeah, I used to stay at the Hampton in West Springfield. It was about 3 miles away, but we have all our clinics now at the Sheridan downtown. So that's where I stay now. And that's only 1.5 miles away. And they have indoor parking. But it's about $20 more than a Hampton.
And here's me, Bruce, Kaylee, this would be more suited to you. Here was me worrying that we were going to be able to fill a whole show about this, and it's like we're not even scratching the surface yet. Okay.
Amateur mistake there, Mr.
Yeah, amateur mistake. I got one. I have one bone to pick with you first. You don't have a best podcast award, and I believe Bruce. Correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe the podcast is almost 32 years old. Is not? Did we not start like 10 years before podcasting was even invented?
Indeed, we did. We had the concept sitting around, have a couple of wobbly pops one day, and said this is going to go places, and here we are.
Yeah. So we just started doing it, realizing nobody was listening. But it was like the movie Contact. We started sending the signals out.
That's it.
In hopes that eventually somebody would hear. So you don't like. I need 10 tables.
10 tables.
Well, we can kick Jim. Out of his,
there's that live steam locomotive that is returning again this year, just outside the BLC. I could set up 10 tables out there.
There you go. Okay. Jim Sacco, City Classics. He's been 31 years, and I was talking to my friend Bob Frischella today. He's an artist, and I think he's in spot 99 in another building.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. He's in the Young building.
Yes, 25 years he's been there. So do you know who your longest vendor is at this point?
I'll tell you what. The longest I don't, because it goes back way before me. But Jim is way up there with, and I don't think anyone's been longer than Jim. So Jim is probably tied for the lead as far as I know.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's such a wonderful guy. I love him to death.
Oh, he's a super guy.
Yeah.
So just supposing, this is a hypothetical question, and Bruce and Kaylee, help me along here because you're regulars. And Chris, of course, you're going to become a regular on the show because I got you a headset, which now makes you, I own your soul now.
That's my badge of honor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, master.
Yeah.
I will comply.
So I usually, up until now, I've been walking around with Jim's City Classics badges, and I was driving along today thinking, oh, great, I'm going to talk to John today. This will be fun. And I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a couple of AML with this? It's a Modeler's Life badge. Like I have my actual, the podcast has its actual own badge.
Really?
And wouldn't that
that'd be swell.
Wow.
That'd be cool.
How would we? Yeah. How do you think we would approach that? How do you think we should ask him? Do we put that in a form letter? Do we do it in triplicate? Do we just ask him now?
I think we got to find a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Kaylee knows a guy.
Yeah, Kaylee knows a guy.
I do know a guy.
Yeah.
Could you ask that guy for us?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go ask that guy really quick.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
We got a couple guys who's looking for a guy who needs help from this guy to get some badges for that guy.
We can make that happen.
Oh, beautiful.
But Kaylee, you will owe me.
Of course.
What else is new, right?
Exactly.
We have so much bartering going on with different projects. I have totally lost track, actually.
Well, she's the nutmeg girl.
I heard that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the clinics. As I'm on the page now, it's $99 per person for a 2-day program.
That is true. And with this year we've done something different, only by request, and that is because people couldn't go to all the clinics. So a couple of the hands-on clinics were actually repeating, and those are the actual clinics that include the hot wire foam factory, for example, because they really have it set up for only about 8 to 10 people at once. So I think it's limited to 8 actually, and so they're actually going to do that each morning, and I think in the afternoon too, because we very very regularly get anywhere from 70 to 80 people to these clinics, and it includes breakfast, lunch. They pay for your parking, whether you're staying at that hotel or not. So we make it real easy for you to get there. They grow every year just by a little bit, but we're not doing it to make money on that. I want this to be like a 4 or 5 day event that people could come to, like a destination kind of event. Yeah.
So on Saturday and Sunday, you have 3 hands-on clinics. At 10 a.m., you have weathering and making a freight car run better. And then you have at 1:30, you have learn to make trees. And this is all at the Mallory Clinic Stadium.
Yeah, there's stadium seating there. So if you're one of the first 30 or so people, you could actually head down to the floor and put your hands in all of that plaster and what have you, and paint and get your hands dirty and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a make and take kind of a deal. But there's stadium seating for like 200. So if you just want to watch, you could actually do that. And so those are what we call our hands-on clinics. But at the same time, there's also what we call our quiet clinics. In other words, if you really want to get serious about some stuff, go to this dedicated room in the Young Building and learn about things like JMRI from one of the authors and founders of JMRI. So we're talking about the guy who helped write JMRI, and that's Ken Cameron and his excuse me, and his crew. But there's a bunch of other clinics as well as battery control now is becoming big, and so one of the premier guys is going to talk about that, and brass locomotive repair for those specialty item type people, and then they tend to repeat the next day, just so we could get things covered for those that don't come both days. But they're actually, JMRI is like LCC one day and then JMRI the next day.
Right. Yeah. So you have 3 different programs here. You have one that's called Track 1, which is 2 days of pre-show clinics. And you have 30 clinics on Thursday and Friday.
That's right.
And that's the one that costs $99. And it includes breakfast both days. It includes lunch both days. And if you're particularly lucky, you can have lunch with John Sacerdote on day 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that person, that price is reduced.
Yeah, half off.
Yeah. So for that, and it includes parking, and it's $99 per person.
That's right. And we actually have, for the first time ever, a one-day price too, because people can't make it both days because they're usually involved with the show anyway. So we have a single-day price for the first time ever of $59.
Yeah, I see that.
And really, it's the cost is the cost. So because we don't pay the clinicians, they're doing all of this out of the kindness of their hearts. So really what we're trying to do is just cover the meals.
So, okay. So who organizes all the clinics?
Actually, there's a gentleman by the name of Mike Dettinger who does that for us. And he's done a great job this year. And we've got a lot of nice clinics. And he is, I guess I don't know if he still is, but I think he's part of Model Railroad University, which is Miles and Fran Hale. And it's Miles and Fran that do the hands-on clinics during the show on Saturday and Sunday. So I think Mike was from there. I'm not sure if he still works for Model Railroad University or not, but he knows his stuff. So he does a nice job for us.
And Miles and Fran Hale, they've been doing the hands-on clinics for quite some time.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I approached Miles and Fran my first year as show director. And I said, I need someone to run clinics. And Miles he just up and volunteered. He says, I'll do it. I said, I can't pay it. He goes, I don't care. And I said, okay.
So you've known Miles Hale for a long time.
Yes, for 15 years, easy.
So, give me your. You don't have to give me your opinion. This is my opinion about Miles Hale. I think he typifies what the hobby is. He's so giving. He wants to give his knowledge to anybody. It's, he just wants people to be part of the hobby and get as much out of the hobby as they possibly can. And he just seems to me to be exactly what the pioneers of the hobby, the Lynn Westcotts and Al Kalmbachs and all those guys. He seems to be to embody what the hobby's supposed to be.
I totally agree with that. He's at times he's too giving. I said, Miles, you can't just give all this away all the time.
Yeah.
So, but he does.
All right. So I want to now. You're going to take a break, John. You can actually have a drink here. I got more questions for you, but. Just take a break because I want Kaylee to tell us again about when she first went to the show.
Okay, first went to the show. Wow, that was I'm trying to think when actually I did go back to the first time at the show. I think that was in 2006.
Yeah.
I think that was my first time at the
Wow.
show. Yeah, because I originally came to Connecticut for schooling during my college years and went to University of Hartford. And then I remember seeing this sign for this giant train show plastered all over the place. And it wasn't just like flyers you tack on the wall or anything like that. No, there were actually billboards up on the highways advertising for the Railroad Hobby Show. And then as the date got closer, I remember hearing radio ads advertising this. So I was like, okay, I got to check this out. Well, this was back when the show was only 3 buildings. Wasn't even the fourth. Actually, it wasn't even part of the complete third. Because at the time they had Better Living Center, they had Young, they had Stroh. Sorry, so it was 3 buildings. Mallory just had opened up. The front half of Mallory had just opened up when I first went there. And all I could say it's overwhelming. I think that first year I spent a grand total of 2 hours tops at the entire show. And then afterwards I had to turn around and walk away because it was that stimulating. There was that much to see. There was that much to experience. That it was overwhelming.
Yeah, like I remember last year, you told us this story for the first time, and you said you just after a couple hours, you just kind of realized you couldn't take it in anymore. You were so overwhelmed by how much model railroading there was in one spot.
Right. And like I said, at the time, when my first time there was only that 3 buildings, and then Mallory had just opened up that next year. So it's hard to imagine, and unless you experience it for yourself, it's kind of hard to imagine what 10,000 or 20,000 people feels like.
And how much space.
And how much space, true, right. Easily. I think I tracked the amount of walking I did, not last year because I didn't do a whole heck of a lot because we were swamped at Tom's Trains. But the year before, I think I clocked in, I walked almost 10 miles.
Wow. Holy mackerel. That's a lot of walking.
That's a lot of walking.
Yeah. And yeah, I bet you have a longer stride than me, so I probably would have done that would have felt like 12 to me.
Yeah, it's definitely an exercise in just attending the show because you're not just walking, but you're also bending, you're squatting down to get some of the boxes that are underneath the table. And that's really a little pro tip, guys, for anyone who's listening. Look under the tables because that's usually where a lot of the good stuff is held.
So, yeah, okay, that's a good tip. And I was going to actually, wow, you and I are like on the same page. It's Kismet. We're on the same vibe. Heavy, man. So I was going to ask you, because you've been going now, did you say 2006 was your first year?
2006.
Okay, so off and on, you've been going 15 years, and you're quite involved now. You're with your club, and you're with Tom's Trains. Do you have, our buddy Rod Deere is coming all the way from Australia. He's going west towards Perth to get on a plane to fly to Sydney, then to get on another plane to fly to Los Angeles, and then get on another plane to get to Boston. And
quick, we better tell him to put his name and address on his shirt.
Yeah, well, no, I think that's just me. I think I'm just basic. It's like, why do I have to go to Tampa to get to Indianapolis from Buffalo? I don't understand this. Well, you could go to Baltimore. I'm not going to Baltimore. I'm going to Indianapolis. Anyways. So do we have something that we could tell him to not be overwhelmed? Because I have a story about me and Bruce after you answer this question.
My suggestion is to take it easy the first day. Don't necessarily go all over the place. Take it building by building. That's the way to do it, is just to go one building at a time and then go, okay, move on to the next building. And okay, then next. Once you got all 4 buildings explored, then you can start to cherry pick and go back to see, okay, I saw this here, I saw that there, and then score the best deals that way.
Right. And do you think, at a comfortable pace, it's even possible to do all 4 buildings in one day?
At a comfortable pace, it'll be tight, but yes, I think it can be done. It's certainly going to take the whole day. Definitely plan on that. But bring water, take lots of breaks. If you have an opportunity, sit down, rest your feet, and then catch up on your breath, and then move on to the next station.
All right. Okay, Chris, you've been going for 10 years. You're a vendor, so you're kind of held to your spot. Do you have anybody else from Exact Rail to go with you?
Yeah, I have one other person that comes out with me.
All right, so you guys kind of so you take turns after you, because there's I always help Jim Sacco at City Classics. I kind of enjoy kind of enjoy the rush. It's kind of like the doors open and oh my God, all these people coming. I help them sell stuff. Not that I've ever sold it for the correct price.
Yeah, he wanted to talk to you about that.
So okay, so there's the initial rush, and like after that, Chris, have you ever had a chance in one weekend to see the whole show when at the same time you have to man a booth?
I think over the last 10 years, I've now seen the whole show in pieces. So I mean, kind of my routine is usually Saturday. The only time I get away is either for a bathroom break or to quickly grab something to eat. But Sunday's a little bit quieter day. It's in a lot of the vendors call it the stroller crowd comes in. That's usually the families start to move in that day. And so I'll kind of get out a little bit, but usually I kind of know exactly where I'm going to go. I generally don't have too much time just to kind of casually wander the show. For me, it's usually kind of a brisk pace through it just to see what catches my eye really quickly.
And do you do any business with anybody else, like with Exact Rail, or you're just out there kind of checking out what's happening?
I go out and I talk. I mean, I've got being in it. I mean, the industry's big, but it's also kind of small, and so there's a lot of friends that go to many shows, and so I just kind of quickly catch up with a lot of friends. And I mean, one that I always head out towards is Eastern Seaboard Models. Brian Bousset, he's out in the Mallory building, and so he's on the other end from where we're at. So I always, make an effort to get out to see him and just kind of go out and see what new layouts there might be. And see if there's anything that kind of catches my eye. I usually don't buy too much at the shows, and I mean, I go to 10 plus shows a year. So
yeah. You don't go to shop, and is it, I don't know if I can ask this question, if I can get the right, what is the experience like of being at okay, so a quick version of what happened to me and Bruce the very first time we went, which was, 15 years ago. Bruce, the moderately agitated mailboy, was walking around. And at that point, they didn't even know that he was Bruce, the moderately agitated mailboy. And we'd been doing the podcast for way over almost 15 years. Nobody was listening because we weren't broadcasting it. But
yeah, we found that made a big difference.
Yeah. Once we actually started broadcast, boy, then people really started to catch on. So we were in I remember this, Bruce, we weren't that far from City Classics, and we were in the Better Living Center, which is the biggest building. And you and I were kind of wandering around like two lost souls for about an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
And then I stopped and I turned to you and I said, have we died and gone to model railroading heaven? Because it was just overwhelming.
The big problem we have is trying to figure out how to get from one place to another, because all the aisles were at angles, and we were very confused and overcome by it all.
Yeah, just very much the same as Kaylee, just overwhelming. Okay, so we touched on eating places, and there's a couple of good eating places there, John. How do you decide on that?
Oh gosh, I listen mostly to the people that are in the area, but there are some great places. The best breakfast spot known in the area is right across the street at a little place called Memos.
That's good.
And yeah, and we've gone there for so long. I actually go there right about a month before the show and set up an account. So everybody that's a volunteer, one of the floor managers, etc., they go there and they eat for well, they don't eat for free. It's free for them, but we put it on a tab. So it's old school, put it on my tab. And then, and he sends us a bill after the show is over. So now that you know the secret, just tell him you're a volunteer.
Yeah.
Why is the tap $300,000?
Yeah, really. But the dinner places are there's actually a lot of them. Right next door to Memo's is a place called Latitude, which is some of the best food I've had in a while. But you've got the Student Prince, which is a German place down in Springfield, and new for this will be the second year now that it's underway. The MGM Casino is down there, and they've got a lot of restaurants attached. But if you want to head out to Palmer, there's a really, really good restaurant called the Steaming Tender, which is it's probably a 20-minute ride from the show, but it's in an old Richardsonian station. So and Richardson used to do stations with layers of brownstone, layers of gray granite. So it was brown, gray. But anyways, it's totally restored, and it's a restaurant right at the crossing of now CSX and Amtrak and the Central Vermont Railroad. So there's a diamond right there. There's a lot. Every once in a while, if you hit it right, there's some good traffic while you're eating. Trains rumble by and vibrate your food and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of great spots.
That's in Palmer.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's like 2 minutes off the highway. You can't miss it.
Right. And I dozed off for a minute. What did you call it? A steaming pile?
The steaming tender.
Oh, okay.
hence the play on railroad.
Okay.
Oh, for a minute, that's what woke you up, right?
Yeah.
What did he just say? That
I haven't heard of that one. I'm gonna have to try that one this year.
Yeah, that was a great one. And there's another one in not too far, about 3 miles away, called Cal's. CAL apostrophe S, which is really good. And that's right on Route 5, which is not all that far away.
And
those are the ones that stick out in my mind a lot.
On Saturday night, Chris, you're already spoken for. So.
Oh, am I already spoken for Saturday night?
Yeah.
Oh. Saturday night is a phenomenon, guys. People actually, we put on a banquet on the grounds at a big banquet hall for those folks that don't want to fight traffic and for the volunteers. But the phenomenon I'm talking about is all these exhibitors get together, the same guys, and they're sometimes competitors, sometimes not, and they all go to their favorite restaurants, which I think is very cool because it's like the same time next year phenomenon, so and I used to do the same thing when I was in computers. Yeah, you get used to the same people at the same shows, and you get to be friends with them, and you go to the movies and you go to dinner with them and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that going on, which I think is cool. But I think that's the nature of this hobby. I think people are on average a lot more friendly than not.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
So what about the eating places actually in the show? There's one place that has a good hot dog. What about, there's actually a built-in in the Better Living Center. There's actually a built-in restaurant in that building.
Yes, there's one there. There's another one in Young. There's refreshment stands all throughout the facilities. There's actually at least one refreshment, sometimes 2 and 3 in the larger buildings, in every one of the buildings. And it's the typical, I call it carnival fare, hot dogs, hamburgers, French fries, that kind of thing. And it's decent. It's decent. I don't eat there, but I don't eat. I eat at night because there's just too much going on, but people eat there all the time. And what's funny is they got smart. They open up now on Thursday night. So they're there all day Friday. And there's on Friday, guys, there's 4,000 people at the show. And that's just the people in the show with volunteers and exhibitors. And I tell the newbies, I said, when you come to the show, first of all, bring twice as much inventory as you're used to bringing, and prepare to start selling on Friday as early as you can set up, because people are even the volunteers. I get so many volunteers on Friday because they want first picks at stuff. I said, but you gotta work a half a day. So from noon on, it's like the show is going on and it's not even open.
Chris, do you start selling stuff on Friday?
No, we've never done that before. I didn't know we could.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Talk to Jim Elster from Scenic Express. But his first year at the show on Friday, he did more in any day at any other show. And
really?
And we weren't even open. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so he loves going to that show.
okay, so let's talk about your grant program. That's not something we want to pass by lightly.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I still to this day have people that say, "Man, you guys make a ton of bucks. What do you do with all of it?" And I look at them and I go, "Seriously?" I say, "We give it all away."
Yeah.
And when I say we give it all away, we give it all away. We're a nonprofit. We're a registered 501c3. So through a formal federal approved grant program, you apply for grants. You have to be a nonprofit also that has something to do with railroads, usually restoration, museums. Now we're giving a couple of scholarships away to rail camp for kids under 18. And so what happens after all these crazy expenses, we take anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, and we give it away.
$50,000, and you give it away.
Yeah, since 1991, we just passed the $800,000 mark. So I figured in about another 5 to 7 years, we're gonna hit the $1 million mark. And a lot of these places that like the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington, and Shelburne Falls Trolley Museum, and all these other folks, they've gotten a lot of stuff done because of the money we've given them.
And is there like a committee that decides? Like, how do you decide who gets the money?
Yeah, it's a formal program. So what happens is the board of directors will vote after a very publicized time frame of when you have to get your grants in and proposal. So there's a whole proposal that you have to fill out. You email it to a certain address, and it gets circulated to the board. The board meets after reading all of that stuff for a couple of weeks. They meet. It's a hellacious meeting, because you're sitting there trying to figure out who deserves a grant and who doesn't. And we look at things like, are they going to complete the project with our money? Because if we could finish the project for them, we like that. Do they do stuff for themselves? In other words, are they doing stuff to match the grant through others, or are they just relying on us? So when they're doing things other than just relying on us, we like that too. But it's a mix of a lot of those things, and we've started to spread it out. For years, it was just New England, and we're halfway across the country now. So we're starting to get grants in from all over the place. Colorado, one from California last year, and that kind of thing. So, and people sometimes, some of the grants are fun. I'm going to restore this last running locomotive on the Main Central, and it'd only be $1.2 million. How much? What do you think? Can you help us? and we actually do a little bit, depending, But if they break the grant down into, we're trying to fix the front trucks, or we're trying to fix this and that, then and it's like $1,200. We could do stuff like that, but we do give one grant away called the Founders Grant, and that's $10,000. So each year we give away one huge grant for $10,000, and then the others total up between another 10 and 20. So we're trying to give away between 20 and 30,000 a year, and we have been consistently for a long time. Not so much in the last couple of years, because we just bought our own headquarters. So the expenses, are up a little bit. So instead of giving away 40 to 50,000, we give away between 20 and 30 now. But we have this headquarters where we do all this extra stuff, and we have Christmas parties for the local kids and all that kind of stuff. So
where's the headquarters?
Headquarters is a half a mile down the street from the steaming tender in Palmer.
Oh, okay. The steaming what?
Not the steaming pile, the steaming tender.
Okay, and how big is the Amherst Railway Society's headquarters?
Oh gosh, there's like 2,500 square feet upstairs and 2,500 downstairs. It's an old Grange Hall, and we're slowly restoring the whole thing. We just had the whole thing inside painted, a roof. We've had electrical folks come in and replace every light bulb with an LED. So we're doing all that kind of cool stuff. We just put a new boiler and a heating system in last year. So the place is in really good shape. It's all, there's like 7 or 8 security cameras and all kinds of stuff. And it's at a nice intersection where it makes for a great speed trap for the cops. So we tell them, come and use our parking lot anytime you want. And so there's always a police presence there, which we love. So it makes it great. But this year we just started a 7.25 inch railroad And we're in phase 1, which is a double track loop around the back of the 2 acres that we own. And eventually it's going to go around the perimeter of the whole place. Right across the driveway, across the front, we're going to put some cross bucks and automatic signals there and everything. We have so many people that work for real railroads that they're donating a lot of stuff, like the cross bucks and all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of people in actual prototype railroading that are model railroad enthusiasts.
Yes. Totally agree. That's very true. A couple of our close volunteers and members work on the railroad every single day. We just had one guy just retire from Maine Central Guilford out of Maine as their dispatcher for many, many years. He just retired this past about a year ago.
And it's okay. You have a who's who here on your website. And how do you determine that? So this year you've got Proto Throttle. Now, do you know there's a guy named Scott Thornton involved with Proto Throttle? Yeah,
it's cool stuff. And for that I just say, how much you want to pay me?
Yeah,
and I'll put you on the who's who. Now, and very, very seriously, I don't. I put in whatever I think is really cool.
Right.
So Proto Throttle was there last year, but it's so cool. Have you ever played with those throttles?
Well, there's a story behind that.
Yeah. They're interesting.
Scott Thornton has been a big supporter, and Michael Peterson and Nathan Holmes, all of Iowa Scaled Engineering, have been very big supporters of the AML, the Modeler's Life podcast. However, we have determined over the years that Scott Thornton's pretty much dead weight.
Are you listening, Scott?
Oh, yeah, he's listening.
Yeah.
And he'd be disappointed if we didn't point that out.
Right.
Yeah, it is very cool. Michael Peterson and Nathan Holmes are the brains behind it, and Scott came up with the idea, and Scott's the front man. It's all very, very exciting. And it is very, very, very cool. It is one of the coolest things to come to the hobby in a long time.
One of our guys is an engineered brakeman on a short line right here. It actually passes right past the end of my street, about 400 yards away. And I was guest brakeman for a day about a year and a half ago, and I almost killed myself. I'm so old for that. But he loves these throttles. He says it's so prototypical. It's like unbelievable. So he swears by them. Sold a lot of his current throttles and replaced them at whatever it was, a clip. But he's running now his entire railroad on proto throttles.
Yes.
So it's so realistic. But he models a little short line, much like the short line where he works every day. So interesting stuff. Kaylee, you know him. I'm talking about Dale.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he swears by this stuff. But the other stuff is what's the latest in JMRI? I just love the fact that Ken comes to this every year. It gives us an update as to what's been done. And I was just up at the Syracuse train show and went to a guy's house on Saturday night, and the dispatcher was Ken. And so he was doing all his open LCB stuff and just craziness and so it was kind of fun. But I always like to promote the 187th Vehicle Club too, because these guys, if you've ever seen what they do, it's like,
amazing stuff.
Really. And I mean the detail at such a small, I don't know how they do it. It's amazing. So I love the fact that they come to the show. There's a whole crazy story involving them as well. But the ETE people, the European train enthusiasts, they have their own little area in the back of Mallory, and they put on clinics and of course they have a bunch of European stuff there and so there's, but anybody new, I think I'll probably put Dwarvin on there this year, because they're doing all this lighting by fiber optics, and they make this cool little fiber optics kit to get you started, and it'll light up the equivalent of about 20 to 25 light bulbs, and it's ingenious. And so all this new stuff is what I try to put on there.
Yeah, it's all very, very cool. Now I was gonna ask you. Let's go look at the latest news. Oh, the 30 new exhibitors in 2019. Wow.
Yeah, I'm actually, that was last year. I'm actually down this year. I'm down only to about 19 new exhibitors.
Oh yeah, I guess the show's actually in 2020, isn't it?
That's right.
It always feels like it's in the last year that you were.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Because it really is just over
Yeah.
the beginning of the year. So people say, because we do all the work now in 2019 for the show that's in 2020. So
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
You've been the show director for almost 15 years?
Yep.
What's the craziest thing you think has happened to you? Like you were in the show and it was kind of like all of a sudden you had to deal with X.
I've got many stories.
All right. Well,
but the one that scared me the most was a lost child.
Oh.
And the lost child was autistic, and we have codes for all of that stuff. And the father and the father came up to me, and I mean in a panic like I've never seen. And I said, "What was your son wearing?" And he couldn't tell. He couldn't remember. He was so panicked he couldn't make it. So we make an announcement, and floor managers go to all the doors, and we virtually do a lockdown.
Okay.
And we call the police, and they're on standby to do an Amber Alert. I mean, these things, you know, you don't like talking about some of these things, but hey,
Yeah.
we're ready for them.
Yeah.
And the secret to that is having had the training for this is when people are leaving the building, and you just put the buildings on hold for just a second. And the secret is if people want to leave, you stand between the child and the parent, and you talk to the child and say, "Is this person your mom, or is this person your dad?"
Right.
And so when they say no, then it's the first warning flag. But we got to be about because you can't wait. We got to be about 17, 18 minutes away from alerting the police that we need the green light and Amber Alert. And one of our floor managers found the kid. The father finally calmed down and said what he was wearing in one of our floor, because all the floor, we leave just one floor manager at each door in the other buildings. All the other floor managers come to the building where there's a problem. And we found the kid. And so false alarm, kinda. So that scared the crap out of me, because when it comes to little kids, you know, I'm really a little leery of that. But that was a good one. The funniest one was about 5 years ago. The smoke alarm went off in the restaurant in Young, in that restaurant that's right opposite Bar Mills, and and it went off the first time on Friday when no one was there, but it tripped the fire alarm, and the folks from the Big E said, "John, it's a false alarm. Don't worry about it." Well, the fire department was dispatched, and not the fire marshal, but the captain on the scene came up to me and tore me a new one when he said, "Why are these people still in the building?" So I just laid it all on. I said, "Not me, man. I did what I was told. I was told it was a false alarm." He says, "The next time you get these people out of this building."
Right.
So sure enough, and it wasn't a smoke alarm. It was the steam from from something that set it off. So it wasn't even a fire. It was steam. Same thing happened on Sunday in the middle of the show. So the alarm goes off, and we locked down the Young building, and we got everybody out. And a lot of the vendors were not pleased because they couldn't watch their stuff, but there was no one in there, and we left floor managers at every door. So I walked over to the fire, to the same guy. Turns out to be the same captain for the squad, and I said, "Well," and he says, "Yep, you did a good job. They're all out now." I said, "But it's a false alarm, isn't it?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Son of a gun." So that disrupted everything, but only for about 10 minutes. So that was silly.
So you speak of floor managers. So how many what is a floor manager, and how many are there?
There are 4 or 5 in each building, so there's about 20 altogether, and they work 2 to 3 hour shifts. And once the show starts, they really don't have that much to do, you know, because once the show is open, everybody's in place. You know, the show takes on a life of its own, and it just runs. So our big days are Thursday, and our hateful day is Friday, because some of the exhibitors, they just don't pay attention to where they are. And they want to move things around, and you can't, because this show is more dense in terms of the number of people per square foot than the Big E itself. So it scares the fire marshal. So we actually went from 10-foot aisles, which is the legal limit, to 12-foot aisles, and that made a huge difference. But floor managers on Thursday and Friday are there to make sure nobody moves the tables, and all the vendors want to invent their own space and move tables, but that's a huge no-no. So we patrol and make sure that things don't get moved, everybody's in the right spot, and it's all because of the fire laws. God help us, I don't want to ever have anything happen there, but we've got huge oversized aisles just for that purpose, because there's so many people there. It's 7 or 8 people deep on Saturday. Sometimes it's scary.
It is.
There's so many people.
Yeah, there are times when you just literally can't move. I mean, I think Kaylee describes it best when last year when you were telling about how you were overwhelmed the first year.
Yeah.
Because I think I was overwhelmed the first time. I was overwhelmed. I'm still overwhelmed, as a matter of fact. Ever since I started this dopey podcast back in, I think it was 57 or 58, wasn't it, Bruce?
Yeah, well, I think we were barely out of three-corner pants.
Yeah,
it was easy back then because phones were a party line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I just interviewed whoever happened to be on the line. So, like last year, like there's all these people, and now people are, and it's like I got to come up with a whole new plan this year because I barely got out from to go and walk around, and then when you get to walk around, it's like, well, where do I go? There's so many things to see. It's the biggest collection of model railroad vendors and manufacturers, I think, anywhere in the country. Wouldn't you say, Chris? I mean,
yeah, I would agree for sure.
Yeah, the folks at Bachman say the same thing, and a lot of folks, Athern and others, scale rails, they all do product release at this show. So there's new product release for the first time, and which I kind of like having it in January because it kind of kicks off the new season. So it's fun.
Are you gonna release any products, Chris?
It depends on how my production schedule holds up. We like to. I mean, this is one of the shows we always like to do product announcements at. People often expect it now from us and other manufacturers to see what they come up to, like, what did you guys announce for the show?
Really?
And if we say, well, we don't have anything, they're like, oh, okay, it's kind of a disappointment for them. So,
yeah, that's what they get used to it, Chris. That's what happens.
Yeah,
it's cool.
So
what are you doing here then? You're not announcing it.
So what are you announcing? Because nobody's listening, so you can tell them.
We're going to release our first. We're going to do a BNSF Gandy dancer.
Nice.
And
brilliant. Sign me up.
Yeah. And
will that be in the heritage paint scheme?
Yeah. We're going to do everything on it. We don't care.
Yeah. I know what I was going to ask you, John. I was talking to Jim Scores of NCE the other night. Believe it or not, he's a friend of mine. I understand that's hard to accept, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I didn't think you had any friends.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well,
I know. Jim, if you're listening, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I talk to him all the time.
Where am I parking this year?
You could cross the road in your memos?
No. So anyways, he does these Greenberg or Greatest Hobby Show. There's 4 of those a year.
Yeah, World's Greatest Hobbies. Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently he sends us stuff to Chicago, his display, and they transport it from show to show. But one of the things they include in that is they send it to Springfield.
Yes. Yeah, the World Greatest Hobby crew, and I talked to Randy Bachman. I actually go to one of his shows at least once every 2 or 3 years just to sit with him and see what's going on.
What was the name?
Randy Bachman.
Randy Bachman.
Turner Overdrive. All right.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll compare notes and just talk and see if there's anything we can do to help each other. Because for me, it's all about promotion of the hobby. I don't see that as a competition. I see that as get the word out there as much as we can. So that's cool. But anyways, he talks to me about all of that stuff. But they have very, very wisely incorporated a bunch of guys. So it's Bachman, it's Lionel, it's a bunch of other people, all of which I can't remember. But they actually have 2 tractor trailers that travel all around the country, and they do stop at our show. And so they just park them, and everything is labeled. All the pallets, they're shrink wrapped, and all the pallets, and we just forklift them off and bring them down to where people are exhibiting. And so they sometimes stay there, sometimes they don't. The tractor trailers, but then when it's time to go, we will stay late Sunday, and we'll pack them all up for them, and off they go to the next World's Greatest Hobby org. I think they own Greensburg now too. So depending on where they need to go next, that's what'll happen.
All right. Before I got another quick question for you, but I'm going to talk to Chris again. So, Chris, tell us what exactly your week looks like, as far as getting to the show. Like, do you pack up? What do you send to the show?
Yeah, so we send. So my process for a show prep usually starts the week before, and so we generally will UPS out all the product we sell and any show materials, our tablecloths, bags that we give away, and a few other things. So I've got to get all of that packed up, ready to go, and that usually takes a day or two for me to prep that. And then once I UPS that out, then I kind of don't have to worry about the show until we fly out. And so we usually fly out Thursday, and then we set up Friday morning. And then typically Friday, if we've got work, I'll go back to the hotel and do some work, or we go out and do something in the area. And then Saturday morning is the show. Often I'll do breakfast at, I just forgot the place that Mimo's. Yeah. We'll often go to Mimo's on Saturday morning or sometimes Sunday. And then after the show, I often do dinner. It's kind of a tradition because KD is set up next to us. We often do dinner with them after one of the nights of the show. It's not fixed the night we go. And then Sunday is just a normal sales day. And then we tear down the booth and pack up the boxes, and I just drop them off at the hotel with labels, and it goes back. And that's about it for what we do. It's kind of become pretty routine now.
So the hotel looks after shipping your stuff, eh?
Yeah, I'll ship the stuff directly to the hotel. I think I can start to do that actually now with the convention. Or you might. I'm not sure. But typically, John, you might want to let me know that if I can just ship directly to the Big E, or if stick with the hotel.
Yeah, no, you absolutely can. As long as it arrives from noon on Wednesday while we're there.
So it needs to be there on Wednesday? Okay.
Yeah. Wednesday, anytime Wednesday afternoon, anytime Thursday.
What about...
But the Big E is getting really good about holding that stuff, because this year as last year, just the way the calendar fell is Monday of that week is MLK Day, and they don't work, and that aggravates the heck out of me, because we need to hang the numbers for what zones you're in and all that kind of stuff, and so we're a little cramped. This is the last year, and then the way the Super Bowl works based on when we have it, that'll all go back to normal. No holiday Monday the week of our show. But this year, there is. So it's a little cramped. But honestly, if you have stuff, there's stuff that comes on Tuesday now, because people are just stretching it. And if what you want to do is just send me an email, and I'll give the exact address and where to leave it. And so we have everything come into the Better Living Center. So that's great for you because you're already in there.
Yeah.
But even other stuff like for Lionel and stuff, then we'll just forklift it down to that building. So it'll be at your booth when you get there.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'll have to email you because I have a few other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a drayage company that we use if you want them to hold it and stuff, but it makes no sense because I'm there the whole week anyway. So I could save you a few bucks by just taking care of it.
Perfect.
And if you have all the labels ready to go on Monday, with a pickup for Monday, I'm there on Monday until all the shipments leave. So it's usually 12 or 1 o'clock, and I'll make sure all your stuff gets out too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So it's like Kaylee, it's like the podcast actually helped.
I think so.
Oh my God, we actually learned something.
Yeah, we actually did stuff. We actually accomplished something tonight.
And we saw a deal being made here.
Yeah, exactly.
AML history.
Yeah,
Only took an hour and a half, but there you go.
Who do you fly with, Chris?
I often do fly with Delta, so sometimes I will do Southwest. I just do Delta because Salt Lake City's a Delta hub, and so it's easy to get to almost anywhere from there.
Yeah.
So Salt Lake City is a Delta hub,
Yes.
and you can fly directly to Boston from there.
No, I can't fly direct to Boston. I
Ah.
usually have to go to either Detroit or Atlanta.
You guys should try flying into Hartford. Southwest. It's a hub for Southwest.
I do fly in from Delta on into Hartford. I don't go to Boston.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you know the back road up State Route 75, 8 miles up the road due north out of the airport, you're at door 1 of the fairgrounds.
Okay.
So you're really close to the fairgrounds.
Is that the highway we take, Bruce, from the?
You probably take Interstate 91.
Well, I've done that one and the one just the other side of the river.
Is your name Bruce?
Not really. Excuse me.
Bruce, is that the one? Yeah, John. So we come out of the Hampton Inn. I stumble out of the Hampton Inn. I get up really early. I'm up at 6 or 5:36. Hey, Bruce.
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean in the morning?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm kind of like, what time does the show open? 10 o'clock. Okay, I'll see it at 9:55. Which makes it a lot harder to find that special parking spot too. By the way, you need to put a couple of pylons, orange cones out there. So we cross the river and we go up this 2-lane road up past the Six Flags amusement park.
Oh yeah. That's another good way. That road parallels the road out of the airport, and it takes you right up to the gate, right over the bridge, and then there's the gate. So
right.
Yeah, that's a great way to go too. Yeah.
All right,
excellent.
Where do you stay, Chris?
So we used to stay at the Hampton in Enfield, and then the last few years there was a newer Hampton that opened downtown that we started staying at.
Right.
But now there's an even newer Hampton that's just opening like this month or next month out in, oh gosh, where is it? I can't remember where it is. I booked it, but I can't remember what city it's in. But it's a brand new one, just barely opening. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how this one works out. But it's probably about as far out as the Enfield Hampton is.
The price you have at the Hampton Inn in Enfield is spectacular. Isn't it like $84 a night, Bruce?
Something like that. It's unbelievably inexpensive.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's 84.
Where do you stay, Kaylee?
I haven't decided yet.
Don't you stay in your house?
So the thing about me and Springfield is that for me, my day starts at 5 a.m.
5 a.m.?
Yeah.
Like
between getting in and then helping the club unpack and uncover, get trains rolling, making sure all the electricals are in good shape, the trains are moving, things are working smooth, and then I move over to Tom's trains and help him uncover the tarps that we put over the displays and products, and that pretty much brings me into about 9 o'clock, which gives me about an hour to walk around before the door opens. Or 8 o'clock on Saturday, and then the door opens.
5 a.m.?
Right.
In the morning?
In the morning.
So what time do you get up?
4:30.
Where do you stay?
So that's why I'm kind of debating if I want to get a hotel room, because Springfield for me is just far enough where it makes sense to get a hotel, but it's also just close enough where it almost doesn't make sense to spend the money for the hotel. So I'm still debating.
I thought I'm sorry, I talked right over top. Yeah, I apologize.
No worries.
No, that's okay. Go carry on.
I was going to say, but if I do pick a hotel, I'm going to try to go for the Hampton Inn in Enfield.
Yeah, that's AML headquarters. It's soon going to be just known as the AML headquarters. So if you stay there, can I stay at your house? Because I don't need to get up at 5 a.m. Because what is it, like a 30-minute drive from your house?
Yep, just about like 35 minutes.
Yeah, so I'll just stay at your place. I'll be like a house sitter.
Okay.
You might want to think about that. Hey, me and the Start Boys will stay at your place.
There you
There
go.
you go.
There you go. Me and Bruce, the moderately agitated mail boy, and the Start Brothers. Yeah, that's the bit. That's it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? All right, John, have we covered everything?
Yeah, I think we're in real good shape, and I really appreciate you guys having me back.
Well, we're going to have this. This will air on. This is actually going to be an actual episode, and will air on January the 20th, the Monday before the big Springfield show, the Amherst Society Railway show of trains, and at the exposition. What's the name of the show?
Springfield.
Yeah, Springfield. the Amherst Railway Society's Railroad Hobby Show.
Okay.
AKA Springfield.
All right. Now, what's new in the world of John Sacerdote in model railroading?
I actually had a great time up in Syracuse. Sat with Ken Cameron a little bit and learned a lot about how to control railroad using JMRI and signals and resistance on the wheels and all that kind of stuff. So, and the guy's house I was at, he did it all by ship list instead of car cards. So as far as model railroading is concerned, I'm going to convert my layout from those pesky little car cards that seem to disappear anyway to ship lists. And it was just a breeze. So, I get my most fun and best ideas from going to other people's layouts. And boy, did I get a whole list of great goodies playing at the guys up in the Syracuse area.
So was this the NER convention, or was it a train show?
No, it was a train. It was it is the NMRA group, but it's I forget what they call it, but it's at the fairgrounds of the New York State Fair in Syracuse, and it was in one building. It looked like a hangar about 10 miles long, but they had 4,000 or 5,000 people there, so it was a great show. And but I just went up to see a lot of people that I knew, and the op sessions on Saturday night were just a blast. I love to do that.
So what's it called? Ship list? SHIP list?
No, they were using a ship, a car card list or a shipping list. They're not to be confused with a program out there that is called. What's it called, Kaylee? Do you know what it's called?
Ship it.
Ship it. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that's not what this guy does. It all on an Excel spreadsheet and has a format. And he just plugs the cars in that you're picking up and delivering, and it's all on. And he prints it all on an oak tag, card stock kind of thing, and sends you on your way. And boy, is it a lot easier than worrying about cars and dropping the right car cards off at the right town. All you do is just mark your ship list, much like a regular brakeman would do.
Okay.
So very, very much more realistic and a lot less headache about building, these little car cards that get tucked in envelopes every time you put a new car on your layout. All you do is just add it to your Excel spreadsheet. Boom, you're off and running.
And when
was cool.
When was the last time you had an operating session on your home layout?
About 2 months ago, but I'm actually up on November 26th. So we have op sessions on Tuesdays, and we have work sessions on Fridays. So I think it's Tuesday, November 26th, somewhere right around there. It's I think Thanksgiving week.
Yep.
But so that's coming up in like a week and a half.
Kaylee, Kaylee, you seem to know something about this.
Yeah, Kaylee's been to the house and is up.
Yeah. I'm like his secretary sometimes.
We end up talking about everything other than operating, but because we've got just all these little projects that we talk that we need to get done, and they just sometimes don't seem to go anywhere unless Kaylee takes them over. That's when they actually get done. So that kind of stuff. But there's just so much going on. It's crazy, especially this time of year.
It is a busy time of year. Well,
yes,
kids,
sir.
I guess have we covered everything, guys?
I'm thinking.
I'm thinking.
So.
I think so.
All right. So there's huge announcements coming from ExactRail. Hey, I just thought.
What's that? I'll
be the first. Well, I'm moving on from ExactRail, but I could be. We could work it into ExactRail. We could become the official podcast of ExactRail.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say something really good. Don't tell me. Let me guess. I can't remember. We're like the first podcast to ever be associated with it was something way better than that now. I got all excited. Chris, do you pin your name to your shirt when you fly because you have to make connections?
I haven't had to do that in a few years now.
I am so Canadian. Bruce, I was sitting there looking at this going, I am so Canadian. Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I'm hitting every friggin' podunk town in the country just to get from Buffalo to Indianapolis.
Well, I've done that before.
Yeah, well,
thanks to the airline hubs, you go all over the country.
Not in Canada. I don't. From Toronto, you fly I just want to go here. I just go there. By the time one trip, I looked on Google, and it said 8.5 hours to drive to Indianapolis, and I remembered I can do it in about 8. And one of the things was 8 hours and 30. I'm thinking I could drive there faster. One of them went directly from Buffalo to Tampa, and then you went back to Indianapolis. And I'm thinking, that seems like the plane's using an awful lot of fuel just to go to Indianapolis.
Well, I had a flight one time, Dallas to down to Charlotte, and then back to Toronto.
Yeah, I don't think I'm very. Yeah, but that's not so bad. I don't think I'm very worldly. I seem like I've been.
Just stick to WestJet, you'll be okay.
I've been very protected, I think. Hey, Kaylee, you know all about planes. What's that? Hey, I got a question for you, Kaylee. This has been bugging me for a while. For the last about 2 months, I keep looking at these pictures. It looks to me like on newer 737s, the engines are a little closer to the fuselage. Is that possible? Like older 737s, they seem like they're a little tiny bit farther from the fuselage.
Yeah, it's because the engine's bigger, and that's why the 737s are grounded because of that issue.
Because the engines are closer to the fuselage?
Because the diameter of the engines are bigger, the fan blades are bigger, so they tend to have more of an upwards pitch. So they tend to want to point to the sky, point the nose to the sky, and because of that, Boeing created this software that pushes the nose down to kind of balance it.
Wow.
Yeah. And when the sensor's wrong, the computer thinks it's still going up, when reality is it's going down, and then you hit the ground.
Okay, I'm never getting on a plane again. Thanks. I was just starting to, the thing of it is, I fly back and forth from Toronto to Orlando. I was when I was younger, not a kid, when I was younger, I was not thrilled with flying. Then I started going regularly back and forth to Orlando, and I got to be where I quite enjoy it, thinking, I'm quite the world traveler now. I handle flying no problem. Then the other day I'm looking at these Southwest flights, and I'm thinking, well, this is inconvenient. This isn't what I want at all. I just want to go from Buffalo to Indianapolis. I don't want to fly around the country. I don't want to stop and see. And it's like you got to change planes, and you got to walk. And I'm like, come on here. And now, Kaylee, you're telling me that that's why and it's like, oh my goodness.
Now, only the new generations.
Yeah. Only on the Max.
Yeah. So they are, so it does look like they're closer.
Mm-hmm.
It's still 3 bolts, though?
Still 3 bolts.
Yeah, I'm not. That's a problem. That's some problem they got to iron out. All right, that's it, kids. Okay, Bruce, you want to give out our email address?
Sure. Our email address, because we love to hear from you and get your ideas and thoughts and everything. As Lionel says, as long as you're making noise, go ahead and call us. Email address, Modeler's Life, Modeler's the 1L, @gmail.com.
And let's see here. We have John, do you remember from last year what you're supposed to do?
No. I obviously not. But I thought you guys were going to do some contest or something. Were we going to do that? Remember how we did a point scale contest last year?
No, you already did the killer questions.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I have no idea what I'm supposed to do now. I was just so flabbergasted by that last year. I'm drawing a blank now.
Yeah.
He blocked out the trauma of the Kelly questions.
Yes, John, that's right. It is a contest, and each of the contestants tonight on the show that you're hosting each get 3 free passes to the Springfield Hobby Show.
Oh, there you go. And breakfast at Memos.
Yeah. And one of us, we won't mention his name, but he does have his name. We won't mention who it is, but he does have his name pinned to his shirt. Gets a really good parking spot.
That I could actually arrange.
All right. So the thing of it is, you obviously you're listening to so many of the podcasts, like you're probably listening to 3 or 4 of them a week, and you're forgetting what the end is. So the appropriate moment, you have to say "Happy Rails" to you.
Oh, did I say that last year? I don't remember, but that sounds somewhat familiar.
You did.
So, yeah, I think I did. All right.
And it was all going so well, Kaylee.
Yeah. Right
we can get the tape out of the control room and play it back later.
Well, apparently we're flying a 737 Max.
There we go. There's your problem.
And the nose is pitching up, and now it's down, and it's like. And we have a website, amodellerslife.com. So if you want to find out all about, we have a Patreon site and all that stuff. So if you want to find out all about A Modeler's Life, go to amodellerslife.com and check it all out there, and you'll find out all kinds of stuff about it. And Kaylee, if you would send me a little write-up and a photo, we could put you on the supporting crew page. We should probably do that with you too, Chris.
That'd be great.
And that's it. I think that's it, isn't it, Bruce?
Hey, Lionel?
Let's see. Check. Yeah.
Yes, Kaylee.
Well, guys.
Can I also...
wait, John, just relax.
Can I also mention one more website?
Absolutely.
So if people want to find out more information about the show, go to www.railroadhobbyshow.com.
There you go. That's the website to go to right now. www.railroadhobbyshow.com. Hey, Chris, what's your website you want to plug?
Let's do ExactRail. That's just www.exactrail.com.
There you go. And Bruce, do you have one website you want to plug?
I can't plug that one.
Are you feeling better now, Bruce? I got a desperate message from Bruce.
I am feeling better because all the chaos and confusion, I needed this. So, yes, I am happy.
Yeah, I got a desperate message from Bruce about 2 days ago. Can we do a podcast? I'm going crazy. And I'm thinking, sure, but I don't think that's going to help, but sure.
It did. Yeah.
And if you find...
let's plug NMRA.org.
Okay, NMRA.org. And if you find a gentleman wandering around your local airport, just double check, because it's probably me.
Yes, go to the nearest white phone.
Yeah. Say, Lionel Strang, please report to the information desk. It's probably me. Okay, John, at the appropriate moment, did you want to say something else? Because you were starting to utter something else.
No, I'm fine.
Okay,
So-
would it make you feel better if we asked you if you were a superhero, what kind of superhero would you be?
Oh my gosh. No, I don't know. I'm trying to think of all of the Marvel movies I've seen. I mean, I guess I kind of I wouldn't mind being Iron Man, so I could fly. See, and you should think about this too, because you could just fly on your own to these destinations. You wouldn't have to worry about airports. So yeah, I could be Iron Man.
You know, if I happen to know a mechanical engineer in the aeronautic industry, I might be able to get something done about that.
Yeah, I wonder who that person is.
Yeah, if it were only true.
Certainly true.
Well, Kaylee, this year when you get up at 5, get to the show at 5 a.m. On Saturday, I want you to remember one thing.
Take a picture and send it to you?
No, it'll be 3 hours before I get up.
Crack of noon, got it.
Yeah. Well, John, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
Happy Rails to you.
Mr. Strang's Wardrobe provided by The Dashing Camper. For all your fashion and tent repair needs, trust The Dashing Camper.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
And I could sing that too, till we meet again. But let's not, because that's the extent of my quality of singing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Are we done?
That's a wrap.